Welcome to class, everyone! Today's explainer is going to completely dismantle almost everything you thought you knew about ancient diets. I'm so excited to be your guide as we dig into human evolution and nutritional adaptation. If you've ever pictured our ancestors surviving on nothing but giant hunks of meat roasted over an open fire, well, prepare to have your mind blown. We're diving deep into the archaeological record today to uncover the real prehistoric menu. Let me kick things off with a quick question. When you picture a prehistoric human, what exactly pops into your head? I'm willing to bet it's a ripped, spear-wielding caveman, wrapped in furs, chasing a mammoth across the plains, right? We've all been sold this image of the ultimate hunter surviving on this all-meat, hardcore caveman diet. But what if that textbook image, that entire Hollywood myth, is just completely wrong? What if the secret to our survival wasn't actually the spear, but something else entirely? Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our syllabus for today's lecture. First, we're unlearning the caveman myth, then looking at unconventional prehistoric proteins, the catalysts of change, the agricultural paradigm shift, and finally, the ultimate evolutionary advantage. Module 1. Unlearning the caveman myth. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how completely it shatters that pop culture image we're so used to. Scientists today are literally rewriting history. They're looking at fossilized teeth, ancient bones, and even microscopic food particles that have been trapped in dental plaque for thousands of years. And the physical evidence? It tells a totally different story. Instead of specialized meat eaters chowing down on daily mammoth steaks, the reality was a hyper-flexible diet. They were incredibly reliant on plants, which required extremely complex foraging skills. There was absolutely no such thing as a single universal caveman menu. Just look at the actual daily caloric pie for a second. Foraged plants and roots actually take up the biggest slice by far. Why? Because, let's be real, hunting massive wild animals was incredibly dangerous, highly unpredictable, and honestly, it failed a lot. Ancient humans couldn't exactly afford to just sit around starving while they waited for a successful hunt. Plant foods were the reliable, everyday bedrock of their survival. These right here were the true survival superfoods. We're talking underground roots and tubers. Think of them as ancient, high-carb energy potatoes. Then you had storable nuts, which were absolutely crucial for long-term calories during the harsh seasons. And listen, foraging wasn't just wandering around picking leaves. It was a highly technical skill. This intense, encyclopedic knowledge of which plants were nutritious and which ones would literally kill you had to be passed down through generations. Finding the right edible plants meant the difference between life and death. Moving right along to Module 2, Unconventional Prehistoric Proteins. So, if plants were the bedrock of the diet, what did our ancestors eat for protein when the hunt failed? Because, as we established, it failed often. The crucial point is that meat was a highly valuable luxury. Sure, a successful hunt yielded massive calories and fat that could feed a group for weeks, but animals are fast and they fight back. When the hunt went bust, ancient humans couldn't be picky. They had to look elsewhere. Specifically, they looked to the water and straight into the dirt. Just comparing these sources reveals a huge contrast. Going after large animals, that's high effort, massive danger. But seafood and shellfish, low effort and super reliable. For ancient coastal communities, the ocean was basically the richest supermarket nature had to offer. People were out there harvesting shellfish tens of thousands of years ago. And here is the massive biological payoff. Fish provided omega-3 fatty acids. Many scientists believe this specific nutrient directly drove the rapid evolution and expansion of our large human brains. Pretty incredible, right? All right, pop quiz surprise for the class. What else is absolutely packed with protein, takes almost zero energy to collect, and is literally everywhere? Yep, insects. Grasshoppers, termites, beetles, larvae, ants, they were all on the menu. Now, I know that might sound a little gross to us today, but insects were a totally normal, practical source of nutrition for our ancestors. They didn't have our modern food hang-ups. If it had calories and nutrients, it was dinner. Simple as that. That brings us to Module 3, Catalysts of Change. Now that we know what they were eating, let's look at how massive natural and technological breakthroughs completely changed the game and permanently altered our biology. First, let's talk about nature's ancient candy, wild honey. Finding a beehive back then was like stumbling onto a literal treasure chest, overflowing with pure, concentrated calories. Ancient cave paintings actually show humans willingly scaling huge heights and risking brutal bee stings just to get their hands on it. In a world where every single calorie mattered, honey was gold. Let's move to how this builds up. because this ingenuity leads directly to the ultimate dietary breakthrough, the cooking revolution. Once we figured out how to control fire, our diets transformed overnight. A simple campfire was basically an evolutionary cheat code. Cooking softened up tough meats and fibrous roots. It eliminated harmful bacteria and parasites. But crucially, it allowed our bodies to extract way more calories with significantly less digestive effort. And all that surplus energy? It went straight to fueling our growing brains.
Module 4, the agricultural paradigm shift.
This is where the timeline of human history takes a massive and honestly pretty counterintuitive turn. If we trace it back, for the vast majority of our history, we're talking 2.5 million years here, we were hyper-flexible wild foragers. It wasn't until a mere 12,000 years ago that agriculture even entered the picture. Farming came along and just completely rewrote the script of human survival. And this brilliantly illustrates the great irony of the agricultural revolution. Ancient hunter-gatherers were eating a staggeringly wide variety of wild plants and animals. But early farmers? They became entirely reliant on just a few stable crops, like wheat, rice, or maize. So while farming gave us a stable food supply and allowed human civilizations to explode in population, it actually drastically shrank our dietary diversity. Which leads us to our final section, Module 5, the ultimate evolutionary advantage. When we zoom out and look at the global math of survival, it becomes incredibly clear that there wasn't just one perfect diet to rule them all. The real keyword for today's lecture is adaptability. Geography literally dictated the menu. A person trying to survive the freezing temperatures of Ice Age Europe had to rely heavily on animal fat and meat simply because plants were practically non-existent. But someone living in tropical Asia, their diet was bursting with a massive variety of fruits, nuts, and plants. Our body's ability to thrive in both of those extremes proves there was absolutely no such thing as one single caveman diet. I absolutely love this quote because it summarizes our entire thesis so perfectly. Our ancestors survived not because they followed one diet, but because they were flexible enough to eat whatever nature provided. You see, our true evolutionary superpower wasn't massive physical strength or having sharp claws. It was our unparalleled creativity and flexibility. We literally figured out how to eat almost everything on the planet. So I'm going to leave the class with this one provocative thought to ponder. If hyper-flexibility and a massive variety of natural foods are what built our big brains and allowed us to conquer the globe, are we, with our highly processed, repetitive modern diets, actually losing the very dietary flexibility that made us human in the first place? Thank you all so much for attending today's Explainer. Keep questioning those textbook myths, and above all, let's keep learning together.